Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the July 2024 meeting of ANC3C's Environmental Justice Committee. Our guest this evening is Rachel Manning from the DC Department of Public Works, who is making a return appearance at our committee to update us on the curbside composting pilot program and other updates to composting services that the district offers. We'll get right to it. I'll turn it over to you, Rachel, and so you can make your presentation. And thanks for joining us again.
Great. Thank you so much for the great introduction. And I'm happy to be back. I'm going to take a moment to just share my screen. I'm having some trouble. 1 second. I don't use Zoom often.
Ooh, lucky you.
And every time you do, they've probably moved the buttons around anyways. So
yeah. Okay, I think I got it. Can you all see?
Yes.
Okay, great. Let me just move you all around. All right. So again, my name is Rachel Manning. I am a program analyst within the Department of Public Works Office of Waste Diversion. DPW, Department of Public Works, is a very operational agency for those that don't know. A lot of our crew are boots on the ground folks, but our Office of Waste Diversion sits underneath the Office of the Director for the agency and oversees a lot of the programs and policies to help us meet our zero waste goal for the district, which is 80% waste diversion away from landfill and incineration. And food waste is a big part of meeting that goal. And one of the projects that I work on is the curbside composting pilot program, which I know that a lot of you are part of and also very excited about. So I'll talk a little bit about that, our progress, as well as some updates with our other program, the food waste drop-off program. But today I'll start with the curbside composting pilot program. We have about 9,000 households in the program currently. And as of June 30th, we have diverted a little over 900 tons of food waste. And in June alone, it's about 150,000 pounds. And we have about a 70% set out rate on average. That means on average, every day, about 70% of people that are getting collection that day are sending out their bins. And for a variety of reasons, people might be on vacation, don't have enough food scraps, but we're really excited about that set out rate. And based on a feedback survey that we did in February, I'll talk a little bit more about those results in detail a little bit into the presentation, but we have a 97% satisfaction rate about the quality of service. So again, really, really proud of that number as well. So backing up for folks that are not entirely familiar with the process, back in April, May of last year, we did a sign up period where about 1,500 households per ward were allowed to sign up for the program on a first come, first served basis. And then in August through October, we did a phased delivery of materials and phased approach in starting collection, just to get our contractor on board and also learning sort of the nuances of each ward as we went. Each household got a larger bin, an indoor bin, a set of bags, and a little informational card. And then again, like I said, in February, we had a participant feedback survey. So again, you see that stat there about satisfaction that I mentioned earlier. And then we also asked about diversion behavior. And something that we found was interesting is about 54% of people that are currently in the pilot program were not composting at all before. And also of those people that were composting before, 55% were not using our food waste drop-off. So they were probably either backyard composting or using a private service. or something else. And so we're excited that we were able to get those people on board, but also not lose a whole lot of people from our food waste drop-off program, and continue to have like success there. And then we also asked some questions about food waste prevention. We know food waste diversion is really important, and it's a lot of what we do at Department of Public Works. But we also know that prevention is the most important step in the waste reduction and diversion hierarchy. And so we want to make sure that first and foremost that people are reducing and preventing food waste from the onset before they're scrapping their food scraps. And so we asked about how people have noticed how much food waste they are generating since they started the program. About 30%, 36% of the respondents to the survey noticed that their food waste generation had decreased since joining the program. And then many of the participants offered what types of food waste prevention methods that they have adopted since joining. It's really good to see that people are thinking about using food before it goes bad, and thinking ahead and buying only what they need, and storing food properly as well. We also asked about our materials. So we chose the bins that we have because we tested them in-house, but you only know if they're good if they're actually being tested in the environment in which they are being used on a daily basis in people's households. And so we asked about how people feel about the outdoor bin size. A lot of people said it was just right, which we feel really good about. It's a 5-gallon bin. We didn't want to bring out a large trash cart sized bin and make people feel like they have to fill it up, or there's not even enough room in some alleyways to put another bin of that size. Some people said it is a little too small. I think that's for people that have larger families, and that's totally understandable and something that we'll consider in the future. Using the caddy, a lot of people liked the caddy for indoor use. It's very similar to the concept of having your indoor recycling bin, your indoor trash bin. But also you'll see in the chart below about improvements. Making the indoor optional was definitely something that people were interested in. And I think that's something that we'll consider going forward, is making some of the materials optional, like the caddy and the compostable bags. While people really liked them and use them, there are people that preferred not to. We don't want to have those materials go to waste if we're just by default giving them away. And so going sort of back to that timeline and talking a little bit about food waste prevention messaging. Again, we want to make sure that we're educating people on how to divert, but also how to reduce and reuse their food scraps. So in late March, early April, around that Food Waste Prevention Week that happens nationally, we, alongside Department of Energy and Environment, sent a postcard mailer to participants in the pilot program. And you'll see this graphic here. That's a clip of what that postcard looked like, that has information about how to best store your food in your fridge. And then on the back, it had sort of a clip of like a little piece where you can cut off, and it says like, eat this first, and you can stick it in your fridge to make sure you're eating things before they go bad. And then sort of rounding that up about the pilot program, future plans. We are excited that we are going to be maintaining services for another year. That means that we will be offering collection services for up to 9,000 households for another fiscal year at least. And we will be adding a small number of new participants as current households opt out or move away. And we'll also be taking some of the feedback into consideration from the survey. I don't have any details right now as to what those will be, but more details to come for sure. And if, obviously, if you're not in the pilot program, you have friends or family that aren't in the pilot program and want to get on our wait list, they can scan the QR code here on the screen, and I will provide those links to the committee to share as well. and post wherever they need to be posted. Something I will say is that we are, when adding those new participants, we'll be prioritizing households in low income and disadvantaged communities, which are mostly concentrated in wards 5, 7, and 8. And then the rest will be added after we prioritize those on the wait list that are in those areas. And I think I mixed up my slides a little bit, but now we are delivering compost. We just wrapped that up, actually. It was really great to see some of the households and schools that we were able to give compost back to, and see the labor go to good use in people's gardens. And so our contractor compost crew actually made this compost with local compost, not from the food scraps from the pilot program participants, unfortunately, but still very local food scraps. And so that was curbside composting. Transitioning to food waste drop off. DC currently offers 12 food waste drop off sites across all 8 wards. We have those operating typically in conjunction with a farmers market area or footprint, I should say. And those operate on the weekends. In Ward 3, there are 3, and they operate on Saturdays at UDC and Cleveland Park, and then on Sundays at the Palisades Farmers Market. Something exciting is we had a location in Ward 8 that was at the Ward 8 Farmers Market, but we recently moved it after doing a community engagement event about finding a new location that was better for the community to Sycamore and Oak, which is a really great new community collaborative and gathering space down in Ward 8. And then something exciting, which I hinted at when being asked to join this meeting, was something that DPW is aiming to do, is site 30 smart food waste bins around the district. So expanding from those food waste drop-offs to still have those, but to increase access through 24/7 drop-offs throughout all 8 wards. And so we are currently gathering a list of people that are interested in engaging with us. We haven't developed or I guess scheduled the community engagement events at this time, but we are gathering a list of people that are interested in getting involved, and we'll have ward by ward engagements. So you are welcome to scan the QR code on the screen to fill out that interest form. And again, I'll provide the links to be provided on and posted on alongside this recording. And that's all the updates I have. Very quick, but also very exciting. And I'm open to any questions that those on the call have.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Rachel. That was really great. Yeah, I think I would just like to add some comments, and then we can do questions if
Sure.
the others have anything to add. But I was really happy to hear about the data you collected in the feedback survey, and how the pilot is changing people's behavior when it comes to generating food waste. And thinking about my own experience too, I use the drop-off points at the farmer's market because I live in an apartment. But yeah, every week gathering up the food that's gone bad in the fridge and thinking, I have to kind of change what I buy each week, because there goes a whole bag of parsley into the compost because it's gone bad. I didn't need that much for what I was making this week. So I think that message came through loud and clear from the participants of the pilot program. So that's really exciting. And I was eagerly anticipating what the special news was going to be about the drop-off points. So this sounds like a really exciting development with the 24/7 locations. And uh, so we look forward to spreading the word about that through our community as well. You started to talk about it at the end, and then I scanned the QR code myself during the meeting. But what is the process going to be for determining, and after the community engagement, but like it's a fixed number at this point, and you're looking to figure out where to put the bins, or how's that going to be decided?
Yeah. So we are hoping to get 30. But however many we get, we still want to make sure that they're sited in places that the community wants them to be sited. But we also understand that our curbside composting pilot program serves a lot of single family homes and obviously does not service folks in multifamily buildings. So we want to make sure that we pay special attention to areas that have higher concentrations of multifamily buildings.
Yeah, it sounds really great. Go ahead, Janelle.
Oh, sorry. I just had a question while you're on that because I'm like thinking of my SMD is mainly large multifamily buildings, right? But and this is true of many multifamily buildings in the District of Columbia. They're on major avenues that have a lot of foot traffic, and you don't want people to like for example, in front of the zoo to just be like walking by and then spoil. I'm forgetting the term. The
Contaminate.
Contaminate. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's the long weekend. My brain is still like booty.
You're good.
But
it's Tuesday.
So but there's my building is part of a sister of 3 larger buildings with a more of a parking lot area that's open to the rest of the neighborhood. People can come and go freely, but it's not going to be on the avenue. Is that an option potentially for one of these, or does it have to be in the public space right of way?
That's a really excellent question and not something I have the answer to at this time.
That's fair. Putting it in.
Yeah, that is something that we would love to hear in these engagement events. Ideally, we would like to have it anywhere it's cited be accessible to anyone that's walking by, actually. And to address your concern about just easily contaminating the bin, it will be lockable and you have to register to use the bin. So there's sort of that behavioral aspect of you're registering because you want to do this. And it's not a very long registration process. It would be scanning a QR code and getting access almost immediately. And so you're able to just buy Bluetooth, for example, as one of the bin examples that we have here pictured does. It's just you're on the app after you're registered and you walk up and it senses and then it unlocks the bin either by hand or a step at the little right here is where a step would be. So press the lid open.
Oh, that's awesome. That kind of thwarts the threat of contamination I was thinking of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, that's neat. Yeah, great. Yeah, because well, I guess if you're doing the curbside too, but it's when you leave town or something, and then it's what am I gonna do at the compost? Then you could just run it out to the 24/7 place before you leave. And I think that's a really awesome idea. And
yeah, cities like Boston and New York City are utilizing bins like this. So if you're interested in ever just looking up what they look like and how they're using them in other cities, those are the places I would look.
Yeah, and to underscore Janelle's point about, and your own point that you see it too, living in a multi-family home apartment building, that that's the gap that needs to be filled. And there's so many potential composters in the building who maybe committing to the bit of dropping it off once a week at the farmer's market is too much. This definitely makes it more accessible. So that's really exciting. I see that Madeline has her hand raised. Go ahead, Madeline.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Rachel, for coming talk to us. So I have several questions. So I'm one of those who lives in a single family home. So I participate in the program. And of course, I love it. I'm so happy about it. And I wish it was throughout the city everywhere. I'm really, I would really, really encourage it. So I hope so. Some of the questions I have, first of all, so you gave us some statistics in terms of number of households participated and how much, how many tons were collected and the set out rates and all that. So I just was trying to understand, especially in terms of the tons collected, how does it compare? What does it really mean in terms of diversions away from the waste, whatever, the landfill? Because I think that's really should be also an important objective. So I was wondering about that, and how does it compare to other situations, and also your map of participations that I was hoping to make to capture it. But do you know why? Like, I live in Ward 3, of course, and I know there's a lot of people that can, but so why is it you have a lower participation in some of the wards? Is it because of the multifamily home concentration? Is it because of, do you have any idea? Do you, from management of the program, do you have an idea of how to bring it more? Because I'm afraid, like bringing more people for the next year, how are you going to make sure that it's people, trying to increase the concentrations in those lower participating wards?
Those are really good questions. So I'll answer the first one, which is, you're good. First, which is the putting into context of the diversion. It is a lot when you think about food waste that people throw away. It's about a third of their trash that they throw away. If they're not diverting it as food waste. So putting that in another bin is really important, and actually getting processed properly and not just get sent to a landfill or incinerator. We are working on our calendar year, or I should say fiscal year 23 solid waste diversion report for the city. And so that'll actually really show that impact of what the pilot program has had overall, residential, also citywide. Because it's only 9,000 households, it probably won't have like a huge jump for if you see the data all expanded in the report. But as it grows, it'll have a really large impact, especially as we're tackling all the residents that are living in the city and moving towards encouraging commercial businesses as well. There was something else I was going to say with that, and now it's going away. I will also share the link for our combined solid waste diversion report for the last 3 years. We were a little backed up and had delay there, but you can see the percentage of food that was diverted through there. You'll see our diversion right there. I don't have it off the top of my head, but I could share that so you could look into that data as well.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, and then to answer your second question about sort of like making sure that it's equitable, the new participants that come on board, and increasing just participation generally. When we did the sign up period, we offered 1,500 spots per ward. That's equal, but we did get higher rates of sign up in certain wards than others. That may have to do a variety of things, just like higher priorities for other things in people's lives, word of mouth. And so something that we need to do is just more targeted outreach to some of the communities that typically don't have higher participation in these environmental motivated type of tasks, like especially in recycling, we could take a note from where a community is not recycling as much as others. And those are some of the communities that we can reach out to and talk to as well. In terms of equitability of rolling people in as people opt out for the next year, we will be prioritizing anyone that's on the wait list that is in a community that is designated as a low income disadvantaged community. And we'll be using sort of like the EG screen tool that EPA has, so a nationally recognized tool of screening.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. I just thought it would be useful for you to know why and why not, but I know it's not easy to. I was also wondering, if you will not mind me taking over. First of all, why? So, what kind of feedback did you get from Compost Crew, who's your contractor in doing the work? Is there anything that they're sharing with you that is useful to improve the program?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely working in strong collaboration with our contractor Compost Crew. They are the people on the ground, so they see and hear a lot of what is going on. We are getting feedback on the usability of the bins. We know that sometimes it's difficult to open and close the lids, especially in the colder months. It was interesting to see this program through many seasons. The water collects on the top of the bins, and sometimes it gets hot and there's some mosquito buildup or the ice freezes. And so that's something that we're considering in the future, changing up to make it a little easier for participants as well as for the crew that are servicing each of the bins as well. We learned a lot about, or I guess I did more specifically about efficient collection routing than I ever thought I would before. And definitely was a challenge, I think, to make sure that our collection routes were as efficient as possible when we were actually servicing the entire city. You'll see in some towns or cities, they choose to pilot in a specific area and not like their entire city, just because they want to concentrate and be more efficient with their routing. That has pros and cons. I think a pro there is, of course, collection efficiency and understanding like very deeply what that specific community wants and needs. But I think con there is you don't see like the whole breadth of the nuances across the city or town. And that's something that we really wanted to see. We wanted to see and understand what each of the distinct neighborhoods and areas of the city wanted, what they needed, what the challenges were, what the barriers were. And I, wouldn't do it any other way. And we figured out how to route most efficiently by having a driver in each of the wards every day, sort of breaking up each ward into about 4 or 5 days. And so there's efficiency like sort of broken into it every day.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, the decisions, which makes a lot of sense from your point of view, to have a distribution throughout the city means, of course, that you need to have like the compost crew has to go everywhere in the city. I mean, as terms of the pilot, it could have been concentrated, but it, I guess makes a lot of sense to try, I have to say, like I have my backyard compost, but also use Compost Crew because that allowed me to do a lot more composting. And since they are part of your program, like their service is impeccable. It's really, and I heard that from other participants in the pilot program, like sometimes in the past it was, they wouldn't show up for a reason or another, but now they're really like super service. So it's very, very nice to say that. I just want to say one more thing. I'm a little surprised about the results of the satisfaction survey about the size of the bin, the outdoor bin. Because I have heard, but again, this is anecdotal, but I have heard from some people I know that are in the program that for a family of 4, it's a little small. Like I have no problem because we're only 2 in my household, but for a family of 4, with teenagers and all that, it's not quite, and then they had to, so that, some families that would also use the drop-off program. So I think that's could be an issue for bigger family. And the fact that people say it's just right, they may not be composting everything they can. I'm just, this is a hypothesis. Of course I don't have data.
Yeah. No, that's really great feedback too. And I think something that we're also hearing anecdotally as well, this was 50% of the participants filling out their survey. So it's not everyone. It's a good response rate, but not everyone, of course. And we do see that too small is higher than too big, obviously. We don't think that the bin is too big. We understand that some people feel it's just right. And there are some families that are larger that feel that it might be too small. And that's something that we understand and we'll be considering in the future with the bin styles.
And just to give one more comment, like really kudos on the waste collection bins that you're going to place throughout the city. I think this is a fantastic idea, because a lot of people, the idea of composting and having the compost bin in the backyard, like some people are so complicated with this. And so I think that's a fantastic idea. And so really kudos on that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for the questions.
Yeah, I just wanted to re-up what you said earlier, that putting out bigger bins would maybe create pressure to have to fill it up, and that would go against the idea of getting people to be smarter about their consumption. And
thank you. Sorry for
oh, sorry. I don't think
I think that and thank you for bringing that up again. To add on to that, we have heard from like other jurisdictions that do have larger like rolling carts, that they don't see as much participation if people in like the food scrap diversion part. A lot of those programs also collect yard waste. So they see a lot of people putting yard waste in there, but not as many people putting food scraps in there, because they see like it's such a big cart and you're just putting like a drop in the bucket of like a little bag. Like, is it worth it? Too. So that's another sort of like psychological thing there. And again, yeah, we just sort of a pillar of this program is making sure that people reduce and reuse and prevent as much as possible before they actually divert.
Yeah, so I think that the hypothetical family of 4 with 2 teenagers, you're encouraging a good discussion there about consumption, instead of just, oh, we need a bigger bin to accommodate all our waste. I think that's also very great. Yeah, I was remembering your first appearance at our committee last year, and this was before the pilot launched, and you talked a lot about what was going to happen with tagging, and there was a lot of kind of wondering before it launched, what's going to happen as people are tagged and they feel like they're doing something wrong and all this. And I was just wondering if you have any feedback from the participants from the survey or from Compost Cabinet on the collecting side about that at this point. With tagging was with, if someone puts contaminant in the bin, instead of being collected, they would get a warning that was meant to be more educational than a penalty of some kind. And has anything come out of that kind of like the best practices kind of way?
Yeah, so I will say we have a very low number of contamination reports, less than 5 a month of people that are getting tagged. And typically it is, those more common things like plastic bags that are non-compostable. And so we have not really received any, complaints that when people get them. We did have, hiccups when drivers were still trying to understand what the tags meant, and sort of that training aspect. We've moved past that, but that was interesting. No bags, no bags, no bags in the bin, so you're not getting collected. And so there was a little confusion there, but we worked through that. But yeah, overall, very low contamination and no complaints really. It's people understand. It's an easy way to communicate to people what they need to improve upon, and get collected the next go around.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I mean, I wouldn't describe it as fear mongering as what was going on before, but kind of planning for some of these but we see that in other debates too, where it's, a lot of this, well, what about this one? And this happens, or what if this happens? And people will misuse it. Yeah, it works.
Yeah. And I will say that this is the pilot where we have a lot. 9,000 sounds like a lot of people. It is, but in hindsight, that's just like a little less than 10% of the customers that or residents that DPW services for trash and recycling. So we know that a lot of these people are like first movers, early adopters, people that are interested in this and want to do it right. And so use of those tags and rates of contamination may increase as we start to add more people to the program. But that's all part of it. That's all part of learning a new habit and being educated on what you need to do.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah.
So I just want to jump in because I think I missed something of your discussions. Did you say that you have to use a bag in the bin? You cannot.
No, I didn't say that. Sorry. So Brooke was mentioning something that I talked about in my first presentation that I made to this committee last year before the pilot, talking about the process of how it'll go if one of our collection crew opens a bin and they see something that's not supposed to be in there. We have a process where we stick a tag on the bin. It's kind of like a larger sticky note, and the crew can check mark the item that's not supposed to be in there. And then they will come back and collect the next week when that item is not there. And it's an educational tool that we've used and other cities have used for recycling. And we're sort of replicating it for this one as a new behavior is emerging. What I was referring to with the no bags is one of the items on the tag is no plastic bags, like regular traditional plastic bags. And we don't want people to have those in. But there was a little bit of a training confusion with drivers with selecting that, thinking that participants are not using their compostable bags and they shouldn't get collecting. A part of that is confusion on the use of the tag, in which we've corrected, as well as a little bit of confusion that people are able to just put their food scraps just into their bin and not use a compostable bag. You are more than welcome to just put your food scraps just in the bag or just in the bin, and not use a compostable bag. They're not required. While they are very easy to take out of the bin and make for a little bit easier cleaning, they are not required. You may, just use a paper bag. You may just put them directly in your bin or line the bin with a paper bag for easier cleanup. Again, not required.
Right. Okay, great. Because just yesterday I was talking to a friend and she was for some reason, I don't know why, she was complaining about the compostable bag, and I said, just don't use it. She said, oh, I can do this? I'm like, yeah, I mean, I don't know why you want to do this when it's 95 degrees outside, but go ahead.
Yeah, more than welcome to not use them. However, I will like a big caveat there is, especially in these warmer months, bin maintenance is definitely essential to keeping that bin clean, reducing pests, reducing odor. And so emphasizing to everyone that's listening here to make sure you clean your bin. But also, Madeline, if you want to share with your friend, make sure they clean their bin if they don't use a bag.
No, I totally agree with you. I was a little like, I'm like, you really want to? Anyway, so I just wanted to make sure I had not said something that I shouldn't have said. It's no, and I told her to put some paper bag at least in the bottom, but she'll figure it out. She's a very clean person. She'll figure it out. I'm just.
So if there are any other comments, feel free to jump in, but just thinking about wrapping up and reviewing, and I see Commissioner Prinzo has joined. So how can we help you out in the time ahead? You had mentioned making people aware of signing up to be on the waiting list. Maybe you can just go over the timeline again. So because it's going to be extended for another year, and as people drop out or move away, some slots may become available. So we can encourage people to sign up for the waiting list. And then the second point where you're looking for input is the placement of the 24/7 collection bins. So
Exactly.
So on those 2 points, you're looking for public input, and we can get the word out and get people to sign up as they're interested in either or both.
Exactly. That would be really appreciated. And I'll provide work with those links.
Okay, great. Okay.
And if anyone has any questions, generally about zero waste in DC, my work email is here, rachel.manning@dc.gov. And then specifically about the curbside composting pilot program, you can email curbsidecomposting@dc.gov.
One more thing, can you did mention the solid waste diversion right report? Can you tell us
Oh, yes.
that or?
Yes. So our website, which is down here without the slash, of course, for curbside composting, you would go to zerowaste.dc.gov, and over the tabs at the top, you'll be able to find reports. But I can also share that work with you if you would like to be able to share that directly with people.
No, that's fine. I can find it. And then for people to sign up, is there a link, or it just has to be the QR code? Or?
Yeah, so you can use the QR code. I will share those links with work to the post. But if you go to this URL right here, though, and I could copy and paste it in the chat actually for efficiency purposes. This is where you will find information about the curbside composting pilot program, as well as at the top of the page, the specific link for the waitlist form. And then if you go to zerowaste.dc.gov/food waste drop off, which I'm dropping in the chat right here, that is where the link lives to let us know if you're interested in engaging on determining where the smart bins should go.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Excellent.
Yeah. Sure thing. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, I second that. Thank you very much, Rachel, for joining us this evening and for all the great work that you're doing. I'll distribute the links when you send them to us by email, and we're excited to partner with you to help get the word out about the composting pilot and changes to the drop-off program. So
thank you for having me.
Yes, on that note, we can just end the meeting.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.